Hey everyone, welcome back to CSS tutorial for complete beginners. Today we're going to learn about how to design a form using CSS. So we will going to design this form and we're going to create it by simple HTML file, and then we're going to use CSS to design this in a very simple way. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So first we're going to check it into the left right side and going to save everything. As you can see, there is right now nothing. So we're going to create the form. First of all, we need to come over into the body section. Into the body section, we can simply use the div tag. And into the div tag, we can simply use the class. And into the class, we can simply create form container. And then we're going to close this div tag. And then what we're going to do, we're going to create another h2 tag, and into the h2 tag we can simply type over here contact us. That's it. Going to save it, and as you can see, we simply give the div tag as a name called from container, and then we'll create a heading, h2 heading called contact us. And right now we're going to form tag. Into the form tag I can simply give action, and into the action attribute I can simply create a hash, and then I'm going to create a method. Into the method I can simply give the post. That's it. Now I'm going to give these angular brackets, and then we're going to create another tag called label. Into the label we can simply label for name, and then we can give the angular brackets and give the full name into the angular brackets, full name. So we added the full name into the label tags, and then we're going to input. So for the input tag I need to use input, and into the input I can simply give it type, and then I'm going to give it as text, and then I give the ID, and the ID should be name, or I can give a smaller one, all same, and then I can give it as a name, and I would say the name as name, and then I will going to give a placeholder. So for that I can simply give placeholder, and into the placeholder I can simply use enter your full name, and then I can simply save it. And as we can see that enter the full name, and then I will going to give the required for showing you, and that is required, and then you can simply give the angular brackets. That's it. If you now save it, and as you can see we create a h2 heading, and then I give a full name detail, and then in here I can simply give enter your full name. And then what we can do, then we can simply create another label. So I'm going to create another label tag. Into the label tag I can give for email. So for that, space for email, and then I can simply close this, and then simply name it as email. That's it. And then I'm going to give the input right now. So for that I will like to give input, and the input type should be email. So for that I'm going to give it as email, and then I'm going to give a ID, and the ID name should be email too. And then I'm going to give a placeholder. So for that I'm going to use the placeholder, and then into the placeholder I'm going to enter your email, and then I'm going to give the required tag. So for that required attribute, and then going to give a angular brackets, and then I can simply save it. And then as we can see, we added full name and email. With this, enter your email attributes or enter your email placeholder. Then I'm going to create another label, and into the label I can simply add for message, and then I'm going to give the angular brackets, and then I'm going to save it as message. So after that, I'm going to give the angular brackets and then going to create text area. I will going to make it a little bit bigger. So for that, I'm going to give it as text area, and then I'll give a name of ID, and the ID should be named as message. And then I'm going to give it as a name. So the name should be message. And then I'm going to give a rows, and the rows should be S. And then I'm going to give a placeholder. So for that, I'm going to type over here placeholder. In the placeholder, I'm going to place write your message. And then I'm going to give the required. That's it. And then I'm going to give the angular brackets. And then that will be close text area. And that's it. And then I'm going to, if I just save it, and so as we can see that the message should be looking like this. The message should be looking like this. And then I'm going to give a button. So for that, I'm going to give the button tag. Into the button, I'm going to type here as submit. Then I'm going to give this angular brackets, and the button will be gone. The button will be added. So I'm going to add here send message. And if I just save it, as you can see right now, there is a send message option over here, as you can see. So now I will going to close the form tag and the div tag, and I'm going to save it right now. And that's it for the HTML file. And now we will going to looking for the CSS. So for that, we're going to start with the body section. So for that, I'm going to add the body and give the curly brackets. Into the body, I can see I can use the font family for the sans serif. I would say Arial, Helvetic, and sans serif. So I'm going to use this. And then I'm going to add the background color. So for that, I'm going to add the background color to the F4, and F4. If I just save it, and right now, as you can see, there's something changed we can look at. So now we will going to added something that will not be visible for right now, but at the end of this video, we will find why we uses this. So for that, I'm going to use the display as flex. If I just save it, and now if we just look at the justify content, so for that, I'm going to add the justify content attribute and make it into the center. Going to save it. And then I'm going to align items into the center. For that, I'm going to use the align items and then going to save it into the center. So as you can see, there looks like this right now, and I will going to give the height should be 100 VH. So for that, I'm going to save it right now. And as you can see, they all are centered. And I'm going to give the margin into 0. That's it. Going to save it. And after doing some CSS in body, I'm going to add dot form container. As you know, we use this name over here, form container. Make sure you wrote the perfect one. So if you can see there is something missing, I gave a space over here. So if I just change the name with the proper, so as you can see, if I just give the name like this, I'm going to save it. Into the pair, we can simply add this. That's it. As you can see, now it's showing. And then I will going to give the curly brackets, and now we will going to add some background. So I'm going to add the background as a white, and then I'm going to save it. And as you can see that in the box, there is something called box is showing. So right now we're going to add some padding. So for that, I'm going to add the padding attribute and give it as 20 pixel. Then I'm going to add a border radius, and the border radius should be something called 8 pixel. Going to save it. So as you can see the changes, now we're going to go for the box shadow. So for that, I'm going to use the box shadow, and the box shadow should be 0 pixel, 4 pixel, and 10 pixel. We're going to give also a RGB value. For that, we're going to add RGB, and into the RGB for the red, I can simply use this as a 0. And then for the green, I can simply use for the 0 another time. And then for the blue, I'm going to use 0 another time or something like this. And for the alpha, I'm going to use 0 another time. So for that, I'm going to use 0. And then I can simply use another color called 1. That's it. I can save it right now. And as you can see, something it's looking like this for the RGB value. And for the box shadow too. So, and after that, we're going to add another attribute called width. And we're going to width for the 100%. Going to save it. And after that, I'm going to use the max width, and the max width should be 400 pixel. And that's saved. As you can see now, those are very relevant with each other. And after completing the front container works done, I'm going to looking for the front container for the H2. So for that, I'm going to add the front container. I'm going to go for the H2 heading and going to give some curly brackets. So first, I'm going to change the margin bottom. So for that, I'm going to select the margin bottom and then give a margin bottom a value called 15 pixel. And then I'm going to add a text align. So for that, I'm going to add text alignment or text align and going to save it as center. That's it. Going to save it right now. You can rightly see some changes over here called color. And then I'm going to add the color with the 333 and then going to save it. And now as you can see that there are something changes happening into our front container. And then I'm going to use the label curly brackets. For the label, I can simply add font weight. The font weight should be bold. That's it. Going to save it. You can see the changes. And now we're going to add the display. So for that, I'm going to display. I'm going to block them. So for that, I'm going to click the block. And as you can see now, they're blocked with their systems. And as you can see now, it's looking like we are doing the right thing, right? So after that, we're going to add some margin. So for that, I'm going to use margin bottom and give the margin bottom if to 5 pixel. Going to save it. And now we're going to give the color to hash 555. Going to save it. And then we will going to give the curly brackets. That's it. So right now what we're going to do, we're going to give some CSS into input values into the text area. And now give the curly brackets, and we're going to start with the width. So for the width, we can simply give it as 100 pixel or the 100%. As you can see, you can save it. And then we're going to add the padding, and the padding should be 10 pixel. Can save it the spaces. And now we can simply add the margin bottom into 15 pixel. We can save it, and then we can simply add the border. So for that I can simply use the border, give 1 pixel solid hash CCC. That's it. We can save it right now, and then we can simply give a border radius. So for that I can use border radius to 5 pixel. We can save it right now. So you can see the changes, and then we are going to add the font size. So for the font size I can simply use 16 pixel, and now I can save it. So after all about this, we can simply add button. So for that, the button, we can simply give the button, going to mention it, and then going to give the curly brackets. Into the curly brackets we can simply use the width. So for the width I'm going to use 100 pixel, going to save it, and now you can see the button went very big. And now I'm going to give the padding for the 10 pixel, going to save it, and after we can simply give the background, and the background should be hash 007B FF. Can save it, and now as you can see the color is showing over, and then there is no border. So for that I'm going to give the border and then set it as none. Can save it, and then I'm going to give the color. So the color should be white because it's suited with it. So for that I'm going to give the white, and as you can see the color has been set it. And now I'm going to give the font size. So for the font size I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, so I'm going to give it as 16 pixel, going to save it, and then I'm going to give a cursor to change for some changes. So I'm going to give it as a pointer, going to save it, and if you, as you can see that there is showing some the cursor, as you can see there is a mouse, and whenever I put it into here it's looking like a pointer. So that's a changes in cursor. So now I'm going to add the border radius, and the border radius should be 5 pixel. Going to save it, and now I'm going to add a transition. So I'm going to add transition, and the transition should be 0.3s, and that's it. You can see there is some changes, and now we'll need to add the hover for the button. So I'm going to click the button, and for the button I can simply use hover, and for the hover I can simply use the curly brackets, and for the changes I can simply use the background, and the background color should be hash 0056B3, or you can simply use B3. Can save it, and that's it. If you just, as you can see, whenever you put the cursor, it's look like there is some transition, it will look little bit more darker. So that's it. As you can see, we created this into our HTML file. It's called HTML file that we created with some CSS, and as you can see it looks like very beautiful. So that's it. Simply you can design a form using CSS in your HTML file. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope to see you for another videos. Till then, goodbye.